like I said, I had experienced a lot of childhood trauma, a lot of which I was very well aware of, although it took me many, many years to realize that it was trauma because as many of you know, we don't always see what we're living in as something wrong. We don't know it's wrong. We don't know that it's not normal or okay. And as I got older, I saw more and more of what was wrong with that scenario. But there was also a piece of what was happening in my childhood that hadn't surfaced for me. And it was starting to come up. And that just kind of rocked me to my core. And that coupled with what I'd already experienced, I was in a lot of therapy, a lot of talk therapy, which was helpful because it helped me piece the puzzle together. It helped me understand some of my behaviors and why I responded to things the way I did and why things affected me the way that they did and why I felt so driven and so intent on achieving perfection.
Each week, I'm joined by my co-host, Claudia Cuevas, licensed marriage and family therapist, as we explore the stories, lessons, and emotional realities behind transformation. Because reinvention isn't just about changing our circumstances. It's about understanding yourself. It's about healing. It's about letting go of who you thought you had to be so you can become who you were always meant to be. Whether you're navigating burnout, grief, identity shifts, career transitions, entrepreneurships, caregiving, or simply asking yourself, what's next? You are not alone. So take a breath, pull up a chair, and join us at the table. This is Elevate Within. Hey, Claudia. How's it going?
Hi. It's going. Life is lifing.
I'm excited because we're going to get into this week's episode of The Architecture of Reinvention. We heard the story of Jenny Catalano. So today, Claudia and I are going to take a deeper look at what some of the themes that emerge from Jenny's story and exploring what they can teach us about trauma, emotional healing, and the process of coming home to ourselves. So let's dive in. Claudia, what would you say to the women listening who is exhausted from holding it all together and doesn't even know where to begin?
Burnout is such a broad topic, right? And so as we're going to be listening to some of these episodes, and we're in no way analyzing or therapy anybody or criticizing anybody, we're just going to kind of take a little bit and kind of expand from there, right? So one of the things that I would want to know is, at what point does burnout touch your identity, right? So are we overthinking, overworking? Is there some perfectionism? Are we risk taking? Are we avoiding? Are we people pleasing? Right. And so really we can kind of break down because burnout it's not just exhaustion. It's really about the identity we take on and how that's manifesting into burnout. Right. And so we can touch into just people pleasing and kind of like how that kind of will manifest depending on how you kind of take on some of those things. And some people won't even notice it.
I know I didn't. For a fact for myself, working in corporate America, with the roles that you have, especially for myself being in operations, you have to be a people pleaser. Like that is your role, not just building out the structures, and help scaling the business, but you have to please everybody. You have to take care of everybody. Whether it's from like the brokers that I work with or the staff, keeping them motivated, keeping them like, hey, we want to keep them here to do the work. So I think that to me is like an identity, and being a people pleaser at work. Also in my community, being a New Yorker, moving to Southern California, because it's like two different worlds. So, I had to hide a bit of the New York aggressive
Mhm.
self
Mhm.
and be more accommodating, more approachable. So I had to learn how to please the folks in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And it gets exhausting. Sometimes I didn't realize I was doing it. There's other times where you do, and then you don't realize that ends up becoming a habit, a bad
Mhm.
habit.
Mhm. Mhm. And it's especially if it's not really part of your personality type, right? Like you didn't grow up being a people pleaser and that wasn't highly rewarded when you were younger because a lot of times, people pleasing comes because it's very highly rewarded. But there's like this split, right? Where in maybe in a high achieving kind of corporate way, you had to then adapt this new personality type and then it becomes really creatively stifling because
Mhm.
there's this like tremendous overload of having to not only please those around them but really kind of always being able to like be 3 steps ahead of them. And so there's like this overworking, overachieving in order to like keep people on your team, right? In order to be able to get
Yeah.
your message across or get your contract signed or, you know, get your
Yeah.
kids to go to school, right?
Yeah.
For some people, people pleasing is just second nature. They're just able to kind of like that's just what they grew up doing. And for others, we've had to learn to do that. And no matter what, it is a toll on your nervous system,
Mm.
right?
Wouldn't that, I just thought about, wouldn't that affect, like, especially, when I'm pitching, and closing deals for clients for the fractional COO work that I do? I realized it was like, yeah, I still have to be a people pleaser, not just selling them, but then getting them to like me,
Yeah.
getting them to trust me. Like, hey, you want to hire me, and I'm going to do whatever I can to do the people pleasing
Mhm.
in order to win the pitch.
So here's the thing, right? So how we work in therapy on how to reframe the people pleasing, because it really isn't about not utilizing a strength that we have.
Mm,
It's just part of the business. And sometimes for other people, it's part of their personality, right? And
right.
so in therapy, we want to know how can we better help you utilize this strength that when overused, not conscious, not intentional, will be detrimental to your mental health, to your wellness, right? And so we reframe this people pleasing into how can you own it so that you can better utilize it. And so then we do something that we call like an energy audit, right? And so you ask yourself questions like, am I doing this? If I do say yes to this, what's the purpose of that, right? Is it
Mm-hmm.
taking energy away from me? Am I saying yes because it's something that aligns with who I am and what I'm trying to accomplish? Or am I saying yes because I feel like I might not be liked?
Right.
And just being able to kind of like take a step back and then kind of like take a deep breath and go, okay, why am I doing this? Because it's second nature for some people.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying, people pleasing is just saying yes. But the negative, right? The negative of people pleasing is that you will put other people's needs, wants, everything before your own.
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure that you're owning the people pleaser is going to be a people pleaser. We're not going to take that away from them. It's their strength. It's what got them to
Yeah.
survive. It's what got them to achieve what they're achieving. We want them to own it and be able to really recognize how they're utilizing this. And so for me, right, I might be like, that's a no. That's a straight no. Like I would never do that, right? But for other people, it's okay. Like I can say yes as long as like I'm home by 7 and that's my like, my
Yeah,
cutoff.
you have your boundaries.
Yep.
I have my boundaries, and then there's sometimes where you kind of snap. You could be
Uh-huh.
having a bad day or a trigger, and it's just
Uh-huh.
like, yo, I really don't want to do this. And then you almost like assert yourself, like, hey, this is how it's going to go.
Uh-huh.
I'm not trying to keep, like, this is just a logical way to get to the other side, to get to the finish line. And you don't realize, like, hey, but when I first met this person, I was trying to do like the people pleasing,
Uh-huh.
identity. And as you're in the mix of it, then you're becoming back to like who your true self is. And they might be asking you shit that is just out of the scope, but the people pleaser would be like, oh, okay, I can add it in. And then you get to a point where it's just like, no, that doesn't make any sense.
Uh-huh.
We're not going to do that. You be a firm. And then now that person's looking at you like, whoa,
Uh-huh.
you're
Uh-huh.
pushing back. And I think
Uh-huh.
for some people pleasers, they're just like, we don't want that.
Uh-huh.
What's gotten into you?
It's an uncomfortable feeling to disappoint someone, to feel like they're gonna be mad at me, they're not gonna like me, right? And so for true people pleasers, that is the underlying kind of negative cognition that they have to keep in check all the time. Look, you said something really important, which is boundaries. And so
Hmm.
boundaries, right? Tell me what you think is a boundary. You might be really versed in it. Like,
Depends on
tell
the
me so
situation.
what but tell me what, like, typically what you think a boundary is.
Oof, for myself, it would be you're asking me to do something that is out of the scope of who my core being is. So I'm old enough, I've experienced enough in life where it's like, no, you can get me, but it's within these parameters.
Right.
Now if you're asking me to step out of those parameters for you, no.
Right.
And I don't know if it's just a trust issue or it's just a no, or I'm old enough, I'm wise enough, I'm like
Mhm.
more experienced enough where it'd be like, I'm not doing that.
Mhm. So for a lot of people, and when I have them come in couples or they come in because they're having some work issues, most people think boundaries is what I'm going to tell you what I don't want you to do,
Hmm.
right? And so it becomes really externalized about like if the whole world can kind of do what I want them to do, then I don't have to feel uncomfortable. So
Hmm.
boundaries are very much you being able to communicate what you are not comfortable with and what you won't do. What the other person does or doesn't do, it's on them, right?
Hmm.
And so saying, yeah, I'm not comfortable with you talking that way to me, so I'm going to remove myself from this conversation is a boundary. You could keep on screaming and saying and doing what you want to do, but I don't have to take it.
Hmm.
And that is a very scary concept for people because they're the ones that have to take the action. It's easy to go like, well, if you didn't yell at me and if you didn't do this to me, or if you didn't ask me to stay overtime all the time, or call me when I'm off,
Hmm.
my job. I have people who have such a hard time with, well, my boss sent me an email at 12 p.m. I have to answer. And I'm always like, says who?
I used to hear that a lot from my staff members where they would
Mhm.
be home having dinner and be like, oh, broker just emailed me or the broker called me. And it's like,
Mhm. I used to do trainings with some really high firm lawyers, and they treated some like heavy like immigration or different kind of cases and stuff. But I remember I would say like, hey, I'm gonna need you to put do not disturb on your phone from like what are you
mm-hmm,
comfortable with? 11 to 6 a.m. And the face that they would make would be what if what
panic,
if I yeah, what if I get a and I
panic.
said, "Is it so tell me what an emergency is."
Mm-hmm,
Like, really define what emergency is, right? And so to me, I would be like life and death. Is that the type of case that you are dealing with? That it's life and death. If you like, if it's a DN, do not resuscitate kind of
yeah,
thing, and they'd be like,
yeah.
no, no, I don't have any of those. So what you're telling me is that the email that came in at midnight, you could get to it at 6, 7 a.m. and nobody would die, and they'd be like, yes, okay. You
That's
can
a
put
normal reaction. That's a normal reaction where even working with, especially a lot of the brokers, they did feel like it was life or death. And I would tell
Mhm,
them, like, we're not saving lives.
mhm,
And there were some that would put in, like, no, I'm saving an investor's life by, making sure his money is spent right. I'd be like, give me a break. Like, this is not ER. But it's that built
mhm,
up, and I don't
pressure,
know if it's
mhm,
built up pressure of like, hey, I'm saving lives. One question I have for you:
mhm,
what about those who went through childhood trauma? Like for
mhm,
myself, I went through that childhood trauma. So I know that people pleasing was, checking in with somebody, making sure like, hey, I need to make sure this is a safe environment. I need to be
mhm.
able to read the room. I need to be able to read you. I need to make sure you're good. We talked about it when I had Shirley Rivera on. When it comes to the people pleasing, do you find that most in women or women and men who have gone through childhood trauma?
Yeah. Yes, because it's a survival mechanism, right? And so, unfortunately, trauma moves along with us. We do
Mhm.
not, unless we're in some therapy and we kind of learned how to kind of uh, heal our inner child and then grow up when it comes to stressful situations, we will react to minor stresses as if we were going through that trauma at whatever age we were going through.
Mm.
It's just how our nervous system works because our brain doesn't know how to distinguish between, oh my gosh, the boss needs me to turn in this report by like 10 to there's someone who's going to hurt me and I'm 5 years old. It doesn't know
Mhm.
how to distinguish that. We do. We distinguish it. We tell the brain and we give it the emotional context of it. The brain only knows that feels just like it did when you were 5,
Yeah.
so get the hell out of there. Like,
Mhm.
let's go, right? Blood starts flowing to our limbs. We will, become disassociate. Like, it'll just say alert, alert, alert. And a lot of people don't know that they're reacting to their 5-year-old trauma when they're in their 50s.
Mhm.
And someone's, it's stress. It's just stressful. There's not even like any safety concern. It's just stress.
Right. Right. How do we how do we as women, because
Mhm.
I know a lot of us go through that. And, how do we find our voice in it, or what practices, how do we identify like, oh shoot, I'm people pleasing, I'm losing my voice? How do we teach women to identify, and what tips and tools would you recommend that we take to practice to slowly get out of that, or not
Yeah.
slowly but get out of that?
Yeah. It's really kind of owning your trauma, like really owning it, right? And there's some trauma that wasn't that impactful in your life. And some trauma is like, really? That's what I'm traumatized about when this other stuff happened. It really is going to depend on what age, kind of like the majority of your trauma happened. But really owning it, identifying it, knowing how today as an adult it is impacting the way that you're communicating, the way that you're taking on stress, what you say yes to and what you say no to, and then slowly being able to be in the now. I think
Mhm.
that's the hardest thing to do is like getting to your nervous system where you're able to get it to go like, this is not dangerous. We're not in danger zone. Really being able to get your nervous system calm, right? So a lot of meditation, a lot of breathing. Um, we even can do some like just um, re-regulating your nervous system, right? So like cold showers,
Mm.
putting your face in like ice water when you're really feeling like, I don't know what is going on,
Yeah.
but there's something that I'm feeling a lot of anxiety about, and I don't have the time to kind of go, what could it be? Right? Like I just need to
Yeah.
like calm
Yeah.
down
Yeah.
so that I can then go, let me make a better decision. And so really being able to like put your face in some water where you're like, right. Some
Mhm.
people use like a little band-aid, like a little, and they snap themselves out of something. I don't like that. It's, we can talk about like some self-harm there, which I don't
Mhm.
really, really kind of promote that. I really like running cold water under your temples here where it's like this is straight to your heart, right? And so it'll kind of calm it down. A lot of like
Mhm.
deep, deep breathing so that you can really kind of beam out. As soon as your nervous system starts going out, you're reacting to a trauma from the past.
What about for those women that will say, "I had no trauma. I
Mhm.
grew up in a loving household and, privileged, but I'm still a people pleaser." Does that even exist? Well,
I will
I'm pretty
beg
sure
to
that exists.
I will beg to differ. I know because again, because trauma has this like really scary connotation, right? Of like 'cause something really bad happened to me. And so
Mhm.
I'll share one of my traumas, which is my first grade teacher called me a late bird because I was late. My mom, like, we had just moved, we got late. And I remember seeing this classroom and there was kids there. And then I was part of the late birds. They were the early birds. I was a late bird.
Mhm.
And so immediately at 6 years old, first grade, I remember the teacher's name. I remember what she looks like. I remember how her haircut was. And it was Mrs. Turtle. She's probably not alive anymore, but like I remember because from that point on, in my head, I was not smart.
Mhm.
I was the late birds, the early birds were the smart kids, the late birds were not the smart kids. And then I consistently had issues with school. How I have
Mm.
3 degrees and 2 BAs and everything like, right? But it was always I'm not smart. I'm not school's too hard. School's too hard for me, right? Because this one little
One
experience.
little experience. So that might be something that a lot of women don't even recognize. Or maybe after hearing this, they're
Maybe.
going to go back and think and be like, you know what? Mrs. Carroll.
It's the thing that most comes up for you, right?
Mhm.
So it might not be people pleasing, it might be something else, but the thing that like the negative cognition, right? The thing that you believe about yourself when under stress, because this is the thing, it's like, yeah, I don't have no, yeah, no, under stress, right? What is the thing that most comes up for you that you think about yourself, right? I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. Whatever, whatever it
Mhm.
is, there is, there is a trauma that is associated with that belief system because
Mm.
it's not typically the trauma, the thing that happened to us. It is what we then linked to that trauma that then told us what we believe about ourselves.
Right. And understanding that and letting the women know, like, hey, trauma is a spectrum. It could be something that was
Yep.
really detrimental and
Hmm.
dangerous and can go all the way over to first grade. I was late
Yeah.
going into class.
Yeah.
And that's
Mom
all part
left
of
to
that
work.
spectrum.
Mom left to work
Hmm.
after she was home with me till I was going to enter kindergarten and she left me.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's that, right? Sometimes so there's little t, right? Little traumas. There's a lot of consistent little traumas. My mom, not my mom, but like you can say like my mom or my dad would call me stupid all the time. Little
Hmm.
traumas. And then there's the big T, which is like the very identifiable trauma, right? You could be like, I know exactly what happened. I know what it was.
Yeah.
That's what, changed my life forever.
Yeah. And we need to do that in order to be able to reinvent ourselves, come back to ourselves, shed those old
Yep.
conditions, speaking of which with the old conditioning, right? Because we always talk about like, hey, we were inherited with the conditions that we have today. Could it also be a people pleaser? Besides the trauma, could it also be where it was inherited it was taught to us.
Yeah.
We were conditioned
Mhm.
for that being as women.
Yeah. So, there is there is a theory that I really like. It's called the Enneagram, and we'll have many opportunities to really get into the Enneagram, but that's one of like the theoretical kind of like point of views that I like. And the reason why I like it is because it's like this number. There's a personality type. I love it because it doesn't pathologize things. It really believes that you're born with this kind of system already. And then anything that happens to you, any trauma or anything, what it is, it goes through that lens that already existed who you are. Right. And so the way that you kind of can see that is like, if you grew up under a household, whether you had many siblings or you grew up with like cousins, but everybody kind of grew up under like that same system.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe let's just put it, same parents, same house, three different siblings. Those three siblings will have three very distinct personalities.
Mm-hmm.
Very distinct, right? Because the theory is you're kind of born that way, and then as things
Mm.
progress, what you see, how you interpret it, you kind of learn. So absolutely, right? If there's, let's say, three girls in a class in a household, and mom's a people pleaser because she saw mom be a people pleaser too, so grandma's a people pleaser. One of those three women will be a people pleaser because she will see, people pleasing gets rewarded.
Yeah.
I get extra little something. Everybody says, "What a good girl you are. Oh my gosh, look at her. She's so
Mm-hmm.
good." There's this thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other two might be like, "That's a lot of work. I'm not doing that, right? Go
Yeah.
for it. Like, I'll let my sister do that, right?" So it depends on your personality type. You will then go, that's the way to do it. And then they
Mm-hmm.
become teacher's pet, and then they become, they're very good at like serving others, and they're such a helper, and oh my god, and gosh, don't be a woman and a people pleaser, because that just, it gives you
Right.
everything.
Yeah. And that also can lead to that burnout. That also can lead to like you lose your identity because we're
100%.
so busy being, and I keep saying we because I'm not always a people pleaser. It's just the survival type of thing. But
Yep.
I
Yep.
totally get it.
Yep.
So thank you so much for that perspective. As we wrap up for this roundtable, what's your final message in
Yeah.
regards to like Jenny's episode and what you want other women to learn?
I really want them to practice maybe doing this like energy audit of like really on a daily basis checking in and saying, is what I'm doing today, is that going to bring me energy? Is it going to take energy from me? And then ask, am I doing this because I want to do it? Or am I doing this because I don't want someone not to like me?
Mm,
Right? Are you engaging in whatever you're engaging for yourself and others? Or are you doing it specifically because you're trying to either evoke an emotion or avoid an emotion?
mm.
And kind of just sit with that.
That's awesome. I love that. Well, this has been great. I cannot wait for next week's episode.
Awesome.
So until then, I'll see you next week.
All right. Bye.
Take care. If this conversation resonated with you, you're not alone. That's exactly why this space exists. Elevate Within is for the high achieving women in the messy middle, the space between who you were and who you're becoming. The architecture of reinvention is an invitation to pause, to reflect, to heal, and to begin the process of unbecoming everything you were told you had to be so you could become who you were always meant to be. Be sure to join us each Friday for our Architecture of Reinvention Roundtable discussions, where we continue these conversations and explore the deeper lessons, insights, tools, and reflections that emerge from each story. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube so you never miss an episode. For Apple Podcast listeners, I would be grateful if you leave a rating or review. It helps reach more women who may need this conversation right now. And if you'd like to go deeper, join us on Substack at Elevate Within. There, you'll find weekly essays and honest conversations about burnout, grief, reinvention, resilience, healing, and the messy middle. Free subscribers receive full access to all public content, while paid subscribers receive bonus essays, early access to upcoming series, behind-the-scenes recording, and opportunities to engage directly with the community. If you know of a woman who needs to hear this conversation today, please share it with her. You can find me on LinkedIn under Sandra Davis, on Substack at Elevate Within, and if you're in need of fractional COO work or would like to book a discovery call on how I can help, you can reach out to me at elevateopsadvisory.com. You'll find all those links in the show notes. Until next time, keep elevating personally, professionally, and from within.